We continue with the reaction to President Cyril Ramaphosa's State of the Nation address last night. The President announced that the R350 COVID-19 grant would be extended for another 3 months. He also announced that some sectors will be eligible to receive extended UIF TERS support, and this will be negotiated at NEDLAC. For more on this, I'm joined by Lisa Seftel, the Executive Director of the National Economic Development and Labour Council. Lisa, continuation of the grants have to be a welcome relief.
Sure, definitely. I think there was a big sigh of relief amongst the NEDLAC social partners that particularly the issue of the social relief of distress grant and the UIF COVID TERS has been extended.
So what is the impact of this? Obviously, it's only for another 3 months. What happens beyond that?
That one I'm not sure about. But in terms of your first question about the impact, remember that the COVID TERS grant ended on the 15th of October. And then we had the resurgence of the infection and we had a lockdown level 3 adjusted from the 29th of December. And what this does now, because it extends till the 15th of March, it means that workers that were placed under restrictions through no fault of their own from the 15th of October through the resurgence period coming up to the 15th of March will be able to claim the COVID TERS. And that's very important for the tourism, hospitality and liquor sector because they were most severely affected. In respect of the social grants of distress, that was coming to an end at the end of January and has now been extended for 3 more months. I must just say that the community constituency in NEDLAC, supported by the other social partners, were also asking that women who are getting the caregiver grant, which is focusing on their children, should also get this grant, which would then serve themselves. I'm not sure, but those of you who've seen the queues outside post offices will notice that it is there's a preponderance of men in these queues, and so that they were saying that they would have wanted also that women caregivers are also given the grant. Thanks.
Now, the President announced the Economic Recovery Program yesterday. What do you make of that? Because if it works, it could deal with a lot of the problems that we're currently having.
Well, in fact, he announced the plan in October, and really what he was doing, as he said, was giving a progress report and providing some of the more specific and fuzzy details around some of the commitments. I think there is a strong alignment between what the social partners would want to see and what he announced yesterday. Obviously, there is still further work to be done, particularly in certain areas like energy generation and spectrum, which I think the social partners at NEDLAC are looking on with keen interest and are available to participate and engage as he had requested.
Now, one of the things that the President has, in fact, the suggestion rather has been for the continuation of these payments beyond March. But where would government draw the money? I mean, several times we've heard government say that they do not have the money to pay for this. There are other suggestions, obviously, that have come through around taxes, increasing taxes to certain sectors of the population.
Well, I think in respect of the social relief grant, that is a grant that comes out of the fiscus, and we would need to hear from the Minister responsible for Finance, Minister Tito Mboweni, about the money for that. In respect of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, this money is not money from the fiscus. It's not money from the taxpayers. It's actually, the UIF is a contributory fund, and money comes from workers and employers that they contribute each month to, and then the UI invests that money. And it has been the argument of organised business and labour is that there are sufficient reserves in the UI fund to be able to continue this grant. And they should do that, particularly because it is workers' money. And they always say that, the COVID-19 is a 1 in 100 year event. And that's what you must, that's why you're keeping and investing the money. And that's where the money should come from. Thanks.
Now, you talk about UIF and various applications that have been made by companies on behalf of their employees. Now, I was speaking to Corruption Watch, I think, over a week ago, and there have been cases of abuse of this fund by companies.
Yes, and I'm aware of that report, and I think it's very important that civil society organizations like Corruption Watch do the monitoring. But however, if you think about it, I think that fund has now dispensed 57 billion rand. And that is a significant input into the economy and ensuring that there is cash for poor people who have been in distress and haven't been able to earn wages in this period. And yes, there have been problems, but actually, I think it's hands up or clapping hands for the Unemployment Insurance Fund, and was monitored by the social partners that they were able to distribute so much money, with the vast majority of the money going to the right people and assisting them.
But I think any form of corruption is too much corruption, correct? I suppose your comments on that. And secondly, how do employees safeguard themselves from this pandemic? I mean, they are struggling. It is, I have no words to describe the struggle, as you would be well aware of over the last few months in particular. And then for your own employer to apply on your behalf and pocket it, and for us to then talk about, well, the majority are getting, is not really good enough, is it?
Look, I agree with you. Any corruption is corruption too much. And as I understand, the social partners have indicated to the Unemployment Insurance Fund, and they have taken their own initiative. They have an initiative called Follow the Money, and they are following up on employers who have not handed over the money to employees. And I'm sure that is supported by everybody. I think the AG was also very active and be able to identify corruption, because some of the corruption was not necessarily employers not giving the money to employees, but also civil servants taking the money irresponsibly and in a corrupt and illicit way. One of the things that the UIF have done has also created, I think, two things. One, that employees were able towards the end of the period to track their money, so they could see if an employer had actually given money to the UIF had given money to the employer. There was also a mechanism introduced that the employee could get the money him or herself. But yes, these were big challenges, and as the scheme is extended, there will remain challenges. And I think the role of the NEDLAC social partners, government, well, particularly business and labour, has been to monitor this and to be able to provide feedback from the ground as to what is happening, and making sure that feedback from the ground both ways. Give feedback to the ground that this is what you're entitled to, as well as get feedback from the ground about what is happening, including where employees like foreign workers and so on do not get the money that they are meant to get.
Lisa Seftel, the Executive Director of the National Economic Development and Labour Council. Thank you so much for speaking to us. When we come back, we speak to Karam Singh, Head of Legal and Investigations at Corruption Watch. This is 405. Stay with us.